we had an obligation to come up with a number that was going to be one that we could be proud of, and also one that, operating on all pistons, we could attain. We didn't want a number that people would shrug their shoulders and say, okay, that's not going to make a difference. That's not going to create generational change, and that's not going to disrupt what's happening now. But we also wanted to create a number that we felt convinced that we could achieve, operating on all pistons, leveraging everyone in this room and in the region and beyond.
And there were so many voices along the way. I'm thinking especially of you, council member, who, advised us to both be aspirational and ambitious, but to keep it real, because the last thing we need to do is set unrealistic goals that are going to disappoint a lot of people when they're not met. So I'm really curious, this idea of having 10 recommendations, there were some that I think we want to talk about in a highlight way to kind of specialize and bring some attention to. So who wants to go first? Would you like to go first?
Sure, happy to go first. A big part of our conversation, and this in many ways is because of what we heard from, what the mayor shared with us on June 9th, she had been hearing from the public, and then what we as a strike force continued to hear about the challenges that Black Washingtonians are facing when it comes to transferring intergenerational wealth, transferring houses, that piece around preservation, being able to preserve and being able to afford the housing given all of the, whether it's repairs or other sets of taxes and those kinds of things. And so we really focused in on recommendations that would help provide that support that people could find easily. Because that's another thing that we heard about, is that people would say to us, well, I don't even know where to start. And so we really focused in on ways that we could have, again, no pun intended, but a front door for people to walk through that was easy to find and be able to get the assistance they need. We also talked about the importance of having more housing. We understood that we just have not been keeping up in terms of the supply of new housing that's available, and we understood that we needed to figure out how to break down some of those barriers that existed, and particularly as we think about our older housing stock that we have, how do we make sure that if there are home buyers, would-be home buyers like Brittany, who really want to get into the market, that they're not priced out by their income, their lived experience, that we're really finding those older housing stock and that we're able to provide that as a part of the supply, in addition to providing new housing that's being built all across the district.
Reverend Hagler.
I mean, one of the things that we were hearing, and I was hearing from other sources as well, which was the problems in terms of being able to pass on your property to your heirs, right? The types of taxes and fees, the things that basically discouraged. And we began to really talk about how do we create some incentives and some vehicles in which people can do that, as well as estate planning and various other things like that. Because one of the things that we recognize, and I know I recognize in my neighborhood, is that, people had been there since the 60s, and they've gone into nursing homes, and the children, for whatever reason, cannot afford to take the property off their parents' hands because of the taxes, those types of things. So we got to put those things in place. I think the other issue is that we were looking at the kind of ways in which people can muster together a down payment, ways in which the district can be of assistance in helping them to muster together that down payment. We were also looking at really the issue around the housing supply. And the fact is that it's taken off the market by investors. And one of my pet peeves is really trying to figure out how we slow that down so that average working people can be able to compete when this investor money is knocking them out of the market. It's a real issue in terms of really creating and expanding supply in the city.
So unfortunately, we do want to get the mayor and the other members of the audience up to talk, and we could really do justice to this issue. It's a very complex issue. The members of the strike force literally put in hours for about 8 or 9 weeks in a row you've given them your applause, but to be frank, I would say you all should stand up for a second and let everybody see you.
Yes.
All right, stand up. Stand up. Okay, last message. What does this mean? What does all of this mean for real people? It's a big deal, yes, and Reverend Bowen, you said it is a history-making day, and I'm not sure everybody understands why that's a true statement. I think it would be helpful for us to end this little conversation with putting more context and human interest to this. And both of you have been very authentic in talking about what this means to you personally. And it always helps for people to understand that. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I rarely get a chance to do this, but my husband's in, well, no, no. My husband is in the audience, and we both own a home here in the district, and in many ways that was facilitated by my mom, who was a homeowner in the district till she sold us her home, and she did so really thinking about how to pass on generational wealth. And that is something that we hold with us and is really an important lesson as we share with our children who are 19 and 17. So give them 10 years, they're going to be in a place where they're thinking about home ownership, and we're going to encourage them in that. And our boys are 4.5 and 2.5, so they've got a little bit more time, but just think about the dent that we can make, think about how we can really move the needle for Black Washingtonians. And so this is very personal for me, and I'm interested in really seeing how the recommendations can be realized to be able to have this be a story that is a common story, and that what we hear about the loss of generational wealth being an uncommon story in the District of Columbia for Black residents.
And I think that it's important when you talk about it, because the issue is, yes, the accrual of wealth, accrual of value for families, particularly Black families in the District of Columbia. But it all starts with this issue, and this is what we've experienced. It's the issue of land security. Because basically when we talk about a decline in terms of people being able to purchase, a decline in the Black movements and populations in D.C., it's because of land insecurity. So we got to address land security to get to that place of accruing wealth. Because if you can't hold on to the land, you ain't going to accrue anything. And that's been part of the history and part of the experience that we've experienced here in Washington, D.C., but not only in Washington, D.C., but clearly across the country, because in the mortgage meltdown, we saw the biggest transfer of wealth out of the Black community. And we've been trying to recover ever since the mortgage security meltdown. So it's important that we look at it and look at how we move D.C. forward, and that D.C. should be the shining star of the nation, and we aim to make it that.
Okay, I want to thank both of you. It's been a real joy and a pleasure to work with you, having known you as long as I've known you. I would just add and say to the mayor and all of you, we've done the easy part, believe it or not. Now we have to actually create the consensus throughout the city to implement these recommendations and to lift them up so we can lift some people's lives up in the residents of the district. So thank you all for your attention tonight, and thank you for the opportunity to do this work.
So we are so delighted to be able to present to the mayor this report. And as she comes, our mayor, who gave us a bold charge for leadership, our current mayor and our next mayor, Mayoral Bowser. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Rev. Well, good morning, everybody. Let's give Anita and Reverend Hagler a big round of applause. I am really very pleased to be here and to receive the recommendations of the committee. I think that our chairs framed what's ahead of us very well. They did set a big, bold goal, in some ways a stretch goal, and that's the only type of goal that I would accept. Because it is true. It is a big job, changes in the economy, changes in people's income and opportunities, changes in the value of homes in our city, all have led to just extreme pressures on housing cost. And it makes me so happy when I can hear one of our residents talk about her home ownership journey. Because that's what it's all about. To go from DC Village to a brand new townhome is the American dream. And I am just so happy that we have been able to craft the type of programs that make that possible. I also want to say it's not the programs, though, alone, because you did it. You had the stick-to-itiveness, the persistence, and the belief in yourself that you are deserving, and you're going to work hard to get it done. And you also show other people, because a lot of times folks think that home ownership is just out of reach. I can never get a mortgage. I can never do this. I can never do that. And they may have not even sat down to ask somebody about how to get started. So what we want to be clear about to everybody is right now we have a lot of programs that will help Washingtonians get started and get through the front door, and we want you to take advantage of that. My team at DEMPED is focused on this. I want to thank the DEMPED team led by John Felchicchio. We've had a busy month. We broke ground on Berry Farm. We opened a Lidl at Skyland. And now we're talking about our vision to make more Black Washingtonians homeowners. So I have this thing about setting goals. I believe if you don't have a goal and a plan to get there, you certainly won't get there. In 2019, we set the goal of having 36,000 new homes by 2025, including 12,000 that are below market rate. We know that we want to add more homes, but we also want to be intentional about making sure more people can afford those. You heard already the detrimental effects of redlining and other discriminatory practices that have blocked Black families from home ownership in our city. And we know that that is the way to pass down generational wealth. That is where most people in our city hold their wealth. The legacy of these policies is stark. For example, 49% of white Washingtonians own their home, and 34% of Black Washingtonians own their home. So we know if we can close that gap, we can increase Black wealth in our city. Recently, we created a $40 million package of legacy initiatives in my new budget, which started on Saturday, including the $10 million for the Black Homeownership Fund. And it is true that it is a down payment, and it won't be enough to reach these goals. But the thing that I've learned, having been a council member and working with the council, is you have to show them the numbers. So if we are to get to 20,000, we have to outline how much it's going to cost and how much of a partner that the government is willing to be. So by 2030, looking at all of the national goals that have been set in this area, we know that this one is going to be important for Washington and achievable. You know that we have in the last 8 years, and as I was sitting there, I was reminded that just 8 years ago now, in November, we had a big party here at the Howard Theater, and that was celebrating my election to be mayor. And I realized when I stood here to give that speech that as a fifth-generation Washingtonian and one whose life was really transformed through one of Reverend Hagler's programs, NACA. As a young woman who wasn't making a lot of money, I knew that I wanted to buy my own home. I had been renting, and I wanted to move into a great neighborhood and do everything that I could to make it even greater. So that's what I did. I bought a house for $125,000. I gave everything I had to get in it. And then I just worked hard. I was the ANC commissioner. I ran for council, and I became mayor. And that house has only allowed me to make big and bold decisions in my life. And it will allow my daughter to do the same. So with this budget, we will create bigger opportunities for Washingtonians by increasing the HPAP assistance program to $202,000. You know, another thing that I realized early on was that one of the ways that we're going to get to our goal, and one of the ways that we have been increasing home ownership in my tenure, is to focus on a group of people, D.C. government employees. And I can't tell you the number of times, and the council member probably has had experiences like this, where a D.C. government employee will pull me to the side and say, Mayor, I bought a house. I used HPAP, I used EHAP, and I used that Eagle Bank program. And that's why I'm in my house. And so we're going to, with your help, with Wynn's help, with everybody who is interested in making sure people get their fair shot, we're going to make sure that we are targeting groups to get them mortgage ready. And to make sure, the truth is, if you have a good job, you probably are mortgage ready. We got to dot some I's and cross some T's and get some things in order and go to some classes. But we can get there. And here's the other thing I tell everybody. We have fantastic neighborhoods in all 8 wards of Washington, D.C. And so we want you to find your home ownership journey in all 8 wards. Our job is to make sure that those neighborhoods are ready for you with great amenities, safety, great schools, playgrounds, and transportation. And that's what we go to work to do every single day. So I want to thank you again for this part of the journey. I'm committed to you to do the big and bold things and make the big and bold ask to get us there, because it is achievable. And it is achievable especially with our partners on the City Council who will work with us every step of the way. Now, Councilmember Anita Bonds has done heroic work protecting the over $1 billion that I have proposed to the council over the last eight years for our Housing Production Trust Fund. And I know we can do it again for Black home ownership. Ladies and gentlemen, Councilmember Anita Bonds.
Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Come on, this is an exciting day. Come on, lift it up. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, and this occasion is so very special. I do want to start, as everyone probably should start and will. I want to start by thanking Mayor Bowser. We cannot thank her enough, because it is her vision and her life experiences that have brought us to the point where we say we've got to do something. It's not enough to say we're going to have equality. We've got to work on equity in our community. So please give her a round of applause for this. And of course, I want to thank the leadership of the Strike Force. Very important. Reverend Hagler and I have known each other for some time, as many of you have known him. And he does not mince his words under any circumstances. And for him to recognize the full value of the strike force and what it means for us in the District of Columbia is very important. Reverend Hagler, to you. To you, definitely. And of course, Ms. Cozart is the other co-chair. I don't know her that well, but I can tell you she's a strong leader. And she pulled us through, and especially working with Reverend Hagler and with all of us, the many different voices. And of course, Don Edwards, we all know who he is and how he makes sure that all of the comments are very generous and appropriate, and we thank you for that. And Reverend Bell, thank you so very much for being that, stable thing. I know I'm giving a lot of placards this morning, but it is very, very appropriate. The struggle has been long and hard and difficult because in the District of Columbia, we have always lived with the motto that equality is what is our goal, and it is. But this time, we dug deep, and we're pulling very strongly to make sure where we can, through the use of the resources that taxpayers have made apparent in the district, that those resources also help to change the trajectory for households, for families that have been left out long term. So that's what this strike force meant to me. I can tell you a little bit about my history. I grew up in Ward 7. My dad was here from the military, and he thought maybe by coming to the District of Columbia that he might have a better chance. And he did. He got to work for the federal government, but he could not become a homeowner. But he could lease with the option to buy. That's the way it was over in Southeast near Southern Avenue, where I grew up. When I was 13 and Dad said he had gotten a promotion to $6.40 an hour, I said, wow, I hope I can make that. And the reason I'm sharing this with you to just give you a sense of who the families are when we talk about the legacy families in the District of Columbia. I want you to feel to some degree, as I have felt growing up and finally having an opportunity to be introduced by the government to the opportunity of becoming a homeowner. And that's very important. Yes, I'm a homeowner now, have been a homeowner for many years, raised my children in the city. Of course, now they could not afford to buy here, so they purchased in Montgomery County and Prince George's County. But you can rest assured, Dorothy Brazil, that my house is going to my family. It will go to my family and probably to one of my granddaughters who just says, oh, Grandma, I just lust for this house and I'm going to make sure that she gets it to take care of it. I know I'm going on and I forget, but you know, we're in a theater. And so when you're in a theater, you think that you have the right to go on and on. So forgive me, please. But I do want to say that the work of the strike force has been so important. We are so blessed in the District of Columbia to have the mix of individuals, the mix of talent that came to the table. And I'm just very proud to have been included in the group. And I say to the city, we've got to do everything we can to get this information out. John Falchicchio, I don't know how we're going to do it, but maybe we need the front door hotline, because When I'm talking to people about, current events as I'm going around, meet and greets and what have you, I'm getting questions from everyone. People are beginning to hear that there is something happening in the district and that there is help coming for home ownership. And so if we're going to do it, we've got to put that information out so people will know how to access this front door. That will give them a big opportunity. And so I'm concluding. I haven't touched my notes, Kevin. I'm very sorry, but today is about a feeling and about a movement that is afoot in our great community. And I feel very blessed that all of you are here. And now it's your responsibility to push the information out through the community. Oh, and let me just mention, when we talk about the HPAP program and the $200,000 that is sort of like I'll say the ceiling, even if you make $109,000 as an individual, you're guaranteed $70,000. On top of this amount, wherever you fall based on your income, there's $25,000 that I put in so that you can repair your roof, your HVAC system. So you're beginning to see that the city, the mayor, this government is very, very in tune with what it costs to really be a homeowner in the District of Columbia, and particularly if you are a Black homeowner or desiring to become a Black homeowner. And so I'm hoping that you'll take advantage of it, and that people will start calling John Pacheco immediately and reaching out, because we want to spend this money, as he knows is always my motto to him. Let's spend the money. And thank you all so very much for giving me an opportunity to speak.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa Perry, and I am here on behalf of the Urban Institute's Housing Finance Policy Center. I'm also a professor and vice dean at the George Washington University School of Business. And on behalf of the Urban Institute's Housing Finance Policy Center, we are delighted to have had the opportunity to play a supporting role in this extremely ambitious effort. At Housing Finance Policy Center, we analyze and do research on the housing market to identify opportunities for the economy, for households, and for communities. And we have offices, and always have had our offices right here in Washington, D.C., although we work very hard to inform public policy around these housing issues nationally. But we're very committed and very delighted to be part of this. From a personal perspective, as a Washingtonian, as a proud graduate of Benjamin Banneker Academic High School, and former partier at the Howard Theater, I am so proud of the work that this strike force has done. These recommendations are ambitious, but they are eminently doable if we all work together. They touch on sort of many areas of opportunity, but the three that I think are really stand out to me and to us at Urban are: one, the recommendations address the significant shortage of supply of affordable housing units that we're facing. These recommendations address the affordability constraints that we're all aware of that pose challenges for not just low and moderate income, but some upper middle class households as well, given the exorbitant house prices. And then, last but not least, these recommendations are intended to help stave off the gentrification which has been occurring in this city and continues to occur, and that many communities suffer with as they try to address some of the affordability constraints. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time. You've got the report, and there's a lot of work to do. And on behalf of Urban, we are committed and would be delighted to provide any additional support that we can to this effort, to the mayors. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Falcicchio.
Well, good morning, everyone. So right now, team members are going to start passing out some of the reports. So you'll actually be able to check it out. For folks who are not in the room, who are watching on the stream, and I know people are watching on the stream because Brittany showed me some text messages that she already received, congratulating her for that. So let's give her another round of applause. For those watching on the stream, if you go to blackhome.dc.gov, we've also posted the report online as well so that those who want to see it can view it. I've had a chance to take a preview of it, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of information about where we are and the recommendations, and then I think it gives you a sense of where we have to go. So as Mayor Bowser said, setting a goal is how we put in place the people, the processes, and the policies to achieve that goal. So the work ahead is for us to do just that. So I want to make sure that you know that we're committed to meet this goal, and we have some history of being successful when when a goal is put before us. So when you think about 2019, and Mayor Bowser mentioned this, she set a goal of 36,000 new homes by 2025, and she asked that 12,000 of those, or directed, I should say, that 12,000 of those homes should be affordable homes as well. And so that was in January 2019 when she raised her hand to be sworn in as mayor for the second time. And then several months later, the Office of Planning and our housing agency partners came together to issue the Housing Equity Report. And that Housing Equity Report is how we came up with the goals by neighborhood of what we wanted to see in terms of affordable housing production. And actually, we stood on this stage, Don Edwards and Mayor Bowser had a fireside chat where we actually talked about how we needed to talk to neighbors across all 8 wards to make sure that they knew that we were serious about bringing affordable housing across the district and that we needed their help to do it. And so that was in February 2020. And I mention this because today is the report is being issued, the recommendations are being received by the mayor, but there's a lot of work ahead. Remember, January 2019, months later, the Housing Equity Report, and then engagement to get community members behind that mission. So that is the work that we have to do ahead, and I'm humbled to be here with you today to say that we actually have a good foundation to build upon. When you think about some of the tools that Mayor Bowser and Councilmember Anita Bonds just talked about, we have some of the tools in place to make sure that we can achieve this goal. For some of us in DC government who are in the room, you know that Saturday was basically our New Year's Day. It was the beginning of a new fiscal year. It was the beginning of a new budget year. And it meant for us that all of our programs got a refresh on funding. We have new programs that we're very excited about. And so Councilmember Bonds alluded to front door, and she said front door a couple times. Well, front door is not just what we want to build more of and for Black homeowners to have more front doors, but it's actually also the website to check out. So if you are a current homeowner and you need some assistance, or you're a prospective homeowner, go to frontdoor.dc.gov. Frontdoor.dc.gov. If you're on social media and you're in the room, that's the one to tweet out. Because what we want is folks to know that there is assistance for them. Mayor Bowser and Councilmember Bonds also talked a little bit about the Home Purchase Assistance Program run by the Department of Housing and Community Development. And as you've heard, the limit or the maximum amount of assistance under that program rose from about $80,000 to $202,000 on Saturday. So I know Brittany and others are excited because with that new limit, it allows them to purchase their home. It allows them to purchase more of their home, and that is worth celebrating for sure. So Mayor Bowser, of course, has charged DEMPED with distributing or dispersing or utilizing, all those words, I guess, the $10 million Black Homeownership Fund. And one of the things I was thinking about is how do we find a model for what we're already doing and how we do it with this fund. And when you look to St. Elizabeth's and the campus that we've built out there, I know Latrina Owens is here, who's the executive director of that campus. I see her on the side here. What we've done is we've actually built all sorts of housing. We've got jobs coming to the campus with Whitman Walker coming there. We've got the entertainment sports arena. The first housing that delivered were 252 units of housing. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we build home ownership opportunities like we're doing on the campus of St. Elizabeth's right now, if you go out there today, there's construction crews building 88 new townhomes. 27 of those are going to be income restricted, meaning affordable to our residents. And they're going to be affordable in a way, I want to just walk you through kind of two households. So I know everything that we've heard today has been inspirational, so I hate to bring you down to the math of it, but let me tell you the math of it. So two households, and these affordable townhomes are at both 50% of the area median income and 80% of the area median income. So one household has a cost to the home is brought down because of our commitment to housing affordability, is brought down to $250,000. With the HPAP and EHAP assistance, that household is receiving $129,000 of assistance. Their mortgage amount then is $147,000. Their mortgage payment is estimated to be about $750 a month. This is to own a brand new townhome on the campus of St. Elizabeth's. On the campus of St. Elizabeth's, that is going to look no different from the townhomes next door that are market rate that sell upwards of $600,000. Another household, and this household has a little bit more income, but listen to the way they're making sure that they have their fair shot and their chance at the American dream. This household has an income that is below 80% of the AMI. That means that the home costs costs $436,000. They're utilizing HPAP, $106,000, and they're utilizing the the Employee Assistance Program for DC government employees to get a $20,000 of assistance. That means that their mortgage is going to be $324,092. But here's where it gets interesting. They're also going to utilize their housing choice voucher. And so with the use of that housing choice voucher, their monthly payment in terms of what they put out of pocket, coupled with the housing choice voucher, their mortgage payment each month is going to be about $350. Again, the townhomes that they're buying are similar to the ones that are being sold for $600,000. And it's because of our commitment to housing affordability that we're able to make sure that these households have their fair shot. So that's what we have to do over and over again in the District of Columbia. If you think that you couldn't buy a house before, today's the day that you go to frontdoor.dc.gov to see how you can emulate what is happening for these two households and that you can be part of what we've talked about today. So with that, I want to bring the members of the Black Homeownership Strike Force up to the stage. We've retired this staircase. It's no longer in use. I'm just going to have you come around this way. So come on up. Don't be shy. Bring your copy of your report, but leave your bags and such. Come on up. So as they come up, let's make sure if you're in the audience or you're watching at home, take a moment. Literally, this is an opportunity to pull out your phone for 2 reasons. One, I want you to make sure you get a picture of the Strike Force to thank them for their work. Tim and Anna, you got to come up too, to thank them for their work. But it's also an opportunity to spread the message about frontdoor.dc.gov. Councilmember Bonds, I didn't wait. I'm getting the word out, as you said. So with that, let's hear it again for Mayor Bowser, Councilmember Bonds, and the members of the Black Homeownership Strike Force. Come right this way, guys. Let's go on both sides. If you guys move on there. So that concludes our program today. Make sure you check out, to see the report, you can check out blackhome.dc.gov to check out all the tools that we have, frontdoor.dc.gov. Thank you all for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
We now return to our previously scheduled program, already in progress.